In the depths of the night, when the world around us falls silent and the city's heartbeat slows, a hidden realm awakens, a realm where secrets fester in darkened corners, where every shadow conceals a story of regret, remorse, and redemption. Welcome to Inside the Criminal World. In this space, we journey beyond the surface of ordinary life to explore the intricate, often unsettling truth behind crime and human frailty. Tonight, I invite you to join me as we peel back the layers of mystery that shroud a case unlike any other, a case that is as much a study of the human soul as it is a chronicle of unspeakable deeds. This is the story of a man named Samuel, whose name, whispered in hushed tones among those who dare to delve into the darkness, came to represent more than the sum of his actions. His confessions, his haunting silence, and the silent echoes of his past have woven themselves into a tapestry that stretches across decades and defies the boundaries of conventional understanding. As the rain patters against the window and the city's neon glow shimmers on rain-drenched streets, I find myself drawn into a world where every detail matters, a world where even the smallest fragment of a memory can ignite a chain of revelations. I remember the first time I encountered Samuel's story. It was a moment suspended in time, a convergence of fate and circumstance that beckoned me into the abyss of human emotion. In that sterile, harshly lit interrogation room, Samuel's eyes, heavy with the weight of lost years, met mine in a silent challenge. There was no grand proclamation of guilt, no dramatic display of sorrow, only a quiet, measured cadence that seemed to hint at decades of buried secrets and unspoken pain. This introduction is more than just the beginning of a case, it is an exploration into the dual nature of humanity. In our journey tonight, we will traverse the labyrinthine corridors of memory and regret, navigating through abandoned alleys and forgotten buildings that serve as silent witnesses to lives once filled with hope and dreams now reduced to echoes. We will see how the delicate interplay of light and shadow, of beauty and decay, tells a story far more complex than that of a single criminal act. It is the story of the human condition, a story where every whispered confession and every solitary tear reveals the intricate dance between our inner demons and our relentless desire for redemption. Imagine walking alone on a rain-slicked street, where each puddle mirrors a broken dream and every flickering street lamp casts a ghostly figure upon the pavement. In that moment, the city transforms into a living canvas, a blend of vibrant neon and deep, unyielding darkness. It is here, in this interplay of glistening reflections and lingering shadows, that we begin to understand that crime is not merely a series of actions but a manifestation of the profound complexity of our souls. Behind every statistic, behind every headline, lies a story, a narrative of longing, failure, and the inevitable search for meaning. Over the next few minutes, we will delve deep into Samuel's world, a world of faded photographs, yellowed case files, and the silent testimonies of abandoned spaces. We will explore the moments when the city seemed to hold its breath, when every drop of rain was a silent witness to a moment of revelation. You will hear the distant echoes of confessions that were not born out of a desire for punishment but out of a desperate need to unburden a tortured soul. And as you listen, I hope you will find that the case of Samuel is not just a story of crime, but a mirror reflecting the darker corridors of our own lives. In our journey together, we will travel through time and memory. We will visit a dilapidated factory where the rusted metal and broken glass tell tales of faded glory and relentless decay. We will wander through the overgrown remnants of a once thriving neighborhood, where the silence of abandoned streets is punctuated only by the soft rustle of leaves and the distant hum of a forgotten past. In every scene, there is a subtle interplay between what is seen and what remains hidden, a delicate balance that mirrors the duality of our existence. This story is told in fragments, pieced together like shards of broken glass that, when assembled, reveal an image both haunting and profoundly human. Each fragment is a memory, a recollection of a moment steeped in sorrow, regret, or fleeting hope. It is through these fragments that we come to see that every person, no matter how lost or damaged, carries within them the seeds of transformation. In the confessions of a man deemed irredeemable, we find a reflection of our own hidden vulnerabilities, a reminder that beneath the surface of even the most hardened soul, there exists a capacity for change. As we embark on this journey, I encourage you to set aside your preconceptions about good and evil. Let us instead focus on the intricate interplay of circumstances that shape our lives, the silent forces that drive us to make choices we may later regret, and the quiet moments when, despite it all, a glimmer of hope emerges from the darkness. This is not a tale of simple villainy, but an exploration of the human spirit, a spirit that, even when weighed down by guilt and sorrow, always yearns for redemption. Tonight, under the watchful eyes of a city that never truly sleeps, we step into a realm where every shadow has a story, and every whisper is a clue to the secrets buried deep within. We open the door to a case that challenges us to look beyond the surface, to question the narratives we have been told, and to seek out the hidden truths that lie beneath. In doing so, we not only confront the darkness of the criminal world but also the darker recesses of our own hearts. This channel, Inside the Criminal World, exists as a testament to the relentless pursuit of truth, a commitment to peel back the layers of human experience and reveal the raw, unvarnished reality that lies beneath. Here, we do not shy away from the complexities of crime and punishment. Instead, we embrace them, understanding that every story, no matter how grim, is imbued with a deeper meaning, a meaning that speaks to the resilience of the human spirit, even in the face of overwhelming despair. In the final analysis, what is crime if not a manifestation of the human condition, a mirror held up to our collective soul, reflecting both our capacity for darkness and our unyielding desire for light? Samuel's story, with its quiet confessions and lingering echoes of guilt, invites us to examine not just the deeds of a single man but the intricate tapestry of circumstances that shape our lives. It is a story that compels us to acknowledge the pain of our past, to confront the mistakes we have made, and to dare to hope that even in the depths of our despair, there exists the possibility of redemption. As you watch this video, let the images and words draw you into a world where every detail matters, where every moment is a brush stroke on the vast canvas of human experience. Allow yourself to feel the weight of each confession, the depth of every sorrow, and the undeniable, enduring hope that binds us all together. For it is in these moments of raw honesty and unfiltered emotion that we discover the true essence of what it means to be alive. So, welcome once again to Inside the Criminal World. Prepare to journey with me through the corridors of memory, into the heart of darkness, and towards a light that may yet guide us home. This is the opening of a story that will challenge everything you thought you knew about crime, about justice, and about the human soul. And as we venture deeper, remember that every shadow has its secrets, and every secret holds the promise of a new beginning. The Awakening of Shadows. I never imagined that the first step into darkness would feel like a warm invitation, a gentle, irresistible pull that beckoned me towards secrets long hidden beneath the facade of everyday life. It began on a night when rain whispered against the window panes of my modest office, each drop composing a soft, persistent lullaby. Outside, the city's neon lights bled into the slick pavement, and I could see how every glimmer of illumination was tainted by the encroaching gloom of the night. In that moment, I understood that the familiar world I once trusted was in fact a tapestry woven with both light and endless, haunting shadows. My journey into this murky underworld did not start with the badge on my chest or the cases piled high on my desk. It began with an unshakable intuition, a sense that something imperceptible stirred in the spaces between our daily routines. I recall a time when I walked the quiet streets of my hometown, enchanted by the delicate dance of autumn leaves in the breeze. Those days were filled with simple joys, the warm laughter of neighbors, the gentle rhythm of daily life, and dreams that seemed as pure as the morning dew. Yet even then, amidst the ordinary, I perceived a lingering sorrow, a hidden undercurrent of secrets and silent grief that whispered of lives unfulfilled. It was this disquiet, this almost imperceptible tremor beneath the surface, that ultimately led me to the career I now inhabit, a role that demanded I peer into the depths of human nature and confront the interplay of beauty and decay. I became a detective not solely to enforce justice, but to understand the hidden narratives of our souls, the unspoken regrets, the quietly shattered dreams, and the persistent scars left by moments of profound loss. Each case was a chapter in a never-ending chronicle of human frailty, and none would prove more transformative than the one that bore the name Samuel. Samuel. A single name that, like a fragile echo, resonated with countless unvoiced tragedies. Rumors about him drifted through the corridors of my memory, carried by hushed whispers in dimly lit bars and the resigned tones of old case files. He was reputed to be a man who had seen too much, his existence marked by a litany of crimes that blurred the lines between monstrous deeds and the quiet agony of a tormented soul. The story of Samuel was less a tale of pure evil and more a chronicle of lives shattered by the inexorable pull of fate and the darkness hidden within the human heart. I remember our first encounter vividly. It was in an austere, sunless interrogation room, where the harsh fluorescent lights cast long, stark shadows across every surface. Samuel sat across from me with a stoic air, his eyes reflecting a labyrinth of regret and defiance. There was no theatrical display, no overt spectacle, only a measured calm and a quiet intensity that seemed to speak of decades of burdens borne alone. His voice, soft and deliberate, revealed fragments of a life steeped in both despair and reluctant acceptance. Every word he uttered, every pause laden with unsaid meaning, drew me inexorably closer to the heart of his enigmatic narrative. After that encounter, I wandered back into the rain-soaked night, feeling as if the city itself had transformed before my eyes. The streets, once familiar, now appeared as shifting mosaics of light and shadow. Puddles on the pavement mirrored broken dreams, and the muted glow of street lamps gave every surface an otherworldly sheen. It was as though the city, in its quiet despair, was speaking to me in a language of reflections and silences. Every droplet of rain, every flicker of a neon sign, carried an unspoken story, a fleeting glimpse into lives marked by love, loss, and the relentless march of time. In the days that followed, I became obsessed with the enigma that was Samuel. I immersed myself in his case file, poring over every faded photograph, every cryptic note, and every whispered testimony. My desk transformed into a mosaic of memories, yellowed pages scrawled with frantic handwriting, blurry images of deserted streets, and fragments of conversations captured in the margins of old notebooks. Each detail was a piece of a larger puzzle, a fragment of a narrative that stretched far beyond the immediate horrors of crime. I found myself not only recording evidence but also, quite inadvertently, cataloging the delicate interplay of hope and despair that underscored the human experience. Late one evening, under the solitary glow of a flickering desk lamp, I sat with my thoughts and the quiet hum of rain as my only companions. The case file lay before me like an open diary of hidden lives, a chronicle of confessions and half-forgotten memories that compelled me to seek answers. I remember vividly the sensation of being both an investigator and an archivist of pain, as if the burden of every secret was being pressed gently yet inexorably into my very soul. I began to perceive that Samuel's story was not simply about crimes committed, but about the delicate fractures that form when a life is touched by relentless sorrow. In his measured confessions, I heard echoes of my own unspoken regrets and the quiet sorrows of a world that often chooses to forget. There were moments when the boundary between his narrative and my own blurred. In the silent hours of the night, as I traced the words on crumpled paper with a trembling finger, memories long buried within me began to surface. I recalled the innocent days of my youth, days when the world seemed imbued with a gentle, unspoiled light. But with the passage of time, that light had faded, replaced by shadows that whispered of responsibilities unmet and choices left unmade. It was in these reflective moments that I realized my journey was not merely about unmasking a criminal, but also about confronting the unspoken truths of my own existence. Samuel's case became a mirror through which I was forced to examine the fragments of my past, the whispered regrets, the half-remembered sorrows, and the hidden scars that had accumulated over the years. One particularly rainy evening remains etched in my memory. I found myself standing beneath a solitary street lamp, its wan glow barely piercing the swirling darkness. The rain fell in steady, rhythmic beats, washing the world clean even as it blurred the boundaries between reality and dream. In that moment, I felt the city transform, a vast tapestry of shimmering reflections, where every droplet of rain, every ripple on a rain-soaked pavement, sang of forgotten hopes and lingering despairs. The interplay of light and darkness was a silent testimony to the fragility of existence, a constant reminder that beneath the veneer of normalcy lay a world teeming with unspoken truths. As the investigation deepened, I began to collect not just evidence, but also moments, fleeting vignettes of life that were as beautiful as they were tragic. I visited abandoned sites that time had almost forgotten, an old, dilapidated warehouse where echoes of past laughter still seemed to linger, a derelict park bench that had witnessed countless quiet conversations, and narrow, winding alleyways where every shadow seemed to harbor a secret. In each of these places, the remnants of lives long past mingled with the persistent present, creating a surreal mosaic of memories that was both haunting and achingly beautiful. In my quiet office, the case of Samuel took on a mythic quality. I began to see it as a convergence of disparate threads, each detail a vibrant, if painful, strand woven into the larger fabric of human experience. His confessions, delivered in that sterile room under harsh fluorescent lights, were not mere admissions of guilt, they were meditations on regret, love, and the inexorable pull of destiny. Every whispered revelation was a key unlocking a door to a part of the human soul I had long avoided exploring. Samuel's narrative became a complex symphony of sorrow and reluctant acceptance, a haunting refrain that echoed in the chambers of my heart. With each passing day, my investigation delved deeper into not only Samuel's dark history but also into the essence of human vulnerability itself. I began to question the nature of justice and the thin line that separates righteousness from the abyss of despair. Was Samuel truly a monster, or was he a man, a deeply wounded man whose actions were born of a profound and irreparable loneliness? I could see in his eyes the burden of countless unspoken sorrows, a melancholic resignation that hinted at a life lived on the fringes of redemption. And as I pored over his scattered clues, a faded photograph, a scribbled note, a broken piece of evidence, I found myself confronting my own inner demons. I questioned whether I, too, was complicit in the silence that allowed such darkness to thrive, whether my own past was marred by moments of quiet inaction and suppressed regret. In the solitude of my office, the case file transformed into a sacred text, a repository of human frailty and the relentless pursuit of truth. I would spend long hours, deep into the night, tracing the intricate web of connections that linked each piece of evidence to another. The soft scratch of my pen on paper became a meditative chant, a way to bring order to the chaos of memories and emotions swirling around me. Every detail was meticulously recorded, every subtle nuance of Samuel's narrative documented with a precision that belied the overwhelming tide of emotion. It was during these nights of intense reflection that I realized the true power of storytelling. In the delicate balance between light and darkness, between hope and despair, lies the capacity to heal even the deepest wounds. One evening, As the rain tapped steadily against the window and the glow of a solitary lamp danced on the walls, I found myself lost in thought. I recalled the first mysterious envelope I had received, a plain, unmarked package containing nothing more than a single, grainy photograph. The image depicted a crumbling building on the city's outskirts, its once grand facade now swallowed by time and neglect. There was an inexplicable familiarity in that image, as if the building were a silent sentinel guarding secrets of the past. Compelled by a mix of curiosity and an unexplainable connection, I had visited the site. Wandering through the desolate halls of that forgotten structure, I felt the palpable presence of memories and almost tangible melancholy that spoke of lives lost to time and sorrow. That building, like so many other silent witnesses scattered across the city, became a symbol of my quest, a tangible reminder that behind every broken facade lay a story yearning to be told. Its crumbling walls echoed with the faint murmur of voices from long ago, each creak of the old floorboards a testament to forgotten moments of joy and despair. I lingered there for hours, letting the ambient decay and quiet solitude wash over me, as if the building itself were gently coaxing out the buried narratives of the past. It was in those moments that I truly understood. Every abandoned place, every relic of a bygone era, held a mirror to our own inner landscapes, a reflection of our hidden dreams, our unspoken regrets, and the inexorable pull of memories that define who we are. By the time the first hints of dawn crept over the horizon, the world outside had shifted from a realm of perpetual twilight into one bathed in soft, muted hues of early morning. The relentless downpour had slowed, and the city began its slow, somnolent awakening. As I stood by my office window, watching the transformation, I felt a profound sense of clarity. In that delicate interplay between the lingering shadows of the night and the emerging light of day, I recognized the promise of renewal amid the echoes of past sorrows. I vowed then to pursue the truth with unyielding determination, to uncover not just the details of Samuel's elusive confessions, but to delve into the deeper layers of our shared humanity, where every act of despair is countered by a glimmer of hope. And so, with the tender glow of dawn as my silent companion, I closed my journal for the night and resolved to face the day with a renewed spirit. I knew that the case of Samuel was only the beginning, a threshold into a labyrinth of emotions and memories that would forever change me. In that fragile moment, I embraced the inherent duality of our existence, the interplay of light and darkness, the transient nature of joy and the enduring weight of sorrow. The journey ahead promised to be as treacherous as it was transformative, a relentless pursuit of truths that lay hidden in plain sight, waiting to be discovered by those brave enough to look. As I stepped away from the window, leaving behind the silent confidences of the night, I carried with me the quiet certainty that every shadow, every whispered secret, was a vital part of the intricate tapestry of life. My quest was not simply to unmask a criminal, but to illuminate the unseen corners of the human soul, those sacred spaces where regret and redemption coexisted in a fragile, ever-shifting balance. And in that luminous understanding, I found the strength to continue, ready to traverse the winding paths of memory and mystery that lay ahead. Whispers in the dark. In the days following that fateful encounter with Samuel, a subtle yet insistent murmur began to resonate within the city's shadowed corners. It was as if the night itself had grown sentient, its whispers carrying fragments of lost lives and unsung confessions, echoing softly through the labyrinth of empty streets and abandoned alleys. I found that even the most mundane moments were now suffused with a spectral quality, each second a silent reminder that nothing in life is ever truly ordinary. My investigation, once confined to the sterile boundaries of case files and police reports, had slowly evolved into a personal odyssey, one where every echo in the dark seemed to murmur a secret meant only for me. The case of Samuel was no longer just a puzzle to be solved, it had become an intimate dialogue between my past, my failures, and the relentless specter of human despair. It was as though the voices of those long silenced had found refuge in the quiet corners of my mind, urging me to listen and understand. Every evening, I would wander through the city under the veil of twilight, drawn to places that pulsed with a strange, unexplainable energy. I walked past the old diner on the corner, its neon sign flickering feebly, a beacon for the lost souls that roamed the night. The soft hum of a distant piano, barely audible yet profoundly melancholic, would often lead me down deserted lanes where time seemed suspended. In these moments, the city transformed into a living testament of memory and regret, its every crack and crevice holding whispers of the past. One particularly humid night, as a thick fog began to envelope the streets, I found myself on the outskirts of an old industrial district. Here, the world appeared shrouded in an eerie stillness, a stark contrast to the bustling chaos of daylight hours. I paused before a crumbling factory, its rusted metal and shattered glass reflecting the faint glow of a waning moon. As I stood there, the silence was broken only by the distant rumble of a train and the soft patter of droplets falling from exposed pipes. It was in that moment, amidst the interplay of light and shadow, that I sensed a deeper presence, a tangible aura of sorrow and longing that whispered to me through the fog. Inside the factory, time had long since stopped. The vast, empty hallways echoed with memories of a bygone era, each creak of the decaying floorboards narrating tales of lives once intertwined with hope and ambition. I moved slowly, my steps deliberate as I absorbed every detail, the graffiti-stained walls that hinted at desperate messages, the scattered remnants of machinery that once hummed with purpose, and the pervasive scent of rust and damp earth. Amidst this haunting decay, I discovered small relics, a faded photograph of a smiling family, a child's drawing clinging to a beam, each item a ghostly reminder of a past that refused to be forgotten. My mind began to weave these fragments into a tapestry of interlocking stories, where the personal tragedies of unknown souls converged with the enigmatic narrative of Samuel. The factory was not merely an abandoned structure, it was a repository of dreams and despair, a place where the very air seemed to vibrate with the collective sorrow of a community lost to time. As I lingered there, I could almost hear the murmurs of long ago voices, their words dissolving into the patter of rain against metal. These were the whispers in the dark, soft, elusive fragments of truth that beckoned me to uncover the deeper meaning behind every shattered memory. The following morning, the city awoke with an almost surreal lethargy, as if the night's secrets had left an indelible mark on its soul. I found myself drawn to the familiar yet now transformed streets of my neighborhood. The gentle warmth of the rising sun struggled to dispel the lingering chill of night, casting long shadows that stretched over dew-drenched sidewalks. Every face I passed seemed touched by a quiet melancholy, their eyes reflecting the collective burden of unsaid words and unhealed wounds. I could no longer dismiss the possibility that the mystery of Samuel was a mirror, a reflection of the city's hidden scars and my own internal disquiet. Returning to my modest office, I carefully spread out a series of photographs and handwritten notes across my desk. Each image was a portal, a fragment of a story waiting to be pieced together. I spent hours poring over these relics, my mind mapping connections between obscure landmarks and whispered testimonies. A particular photograph of an abandoned church caught my eye, a structure draped in ivy and time, its stained glass windows shattered but still hinting at vibrant hues of a once sacred past. It struck me as a symbol of resilience amidst decay, much like the human spirit itself, battered by life's relentless storms, yet refusing to surrender completely to the darkness. That evening, as twilight deepened and the first hints of nightfall crept over the city, I revisited the church. Its silent spire reached toward a starless sky, a stark silhouette against the inky backdrop of the universe. The air was cool and heavy, carrying with it the faint aroma of incense and old wood. I stepped inside cautiously, the echo of my footsteps mingling with the whispered rustle of fallen leaves that had somehow found their way through the broken doors. The sanctuary was a haunting tableau, a place frozen in time where each ray of moonlight illuminated dust motes that danced like tiny phantoms in the darkness. I felt a profound stillness here, a momentary suspension of reality where the past and present coexisted in a fragile harmony. Seated on a worn pew, I closed my eyes and let the ambient sounds wash over me, the soft creaking of ancient beams, the distant drip of water echoing off stone walls, and the quiet rustle of pages in a forgotten hymn book. In that moment, the church transformed into a sacred space of introspection, a haven where the whispers of the past spoke directly to the heart. I could almost sense the collective grief of those who had once sought solace within these walls, their silent prayers and unfulfilled hopes mingling with the cool night air. It was here that I realized that every corner of this forsaken place held a story, a narrative of love, loss, and the eternal struggle to find light in a world increasingly consumed by darkness. Over the following weeks, the whispers in the dark continued to haunt my every step. I found that even in the midst of bustling city life, the faint murmurs of unseen voices were never far away. They crept into my thoughts during quiet moments, a reflection on a rain-soaked window, the gentle rustle of leaves in a park at dusk, the soft echo of footsteps on an empty street. It became impossible to separate the external world from the internal one. The mystery of Samuel and the somber beauty of forgotten places were inextricably linked to my own introspection. Late one night, as I sat by my desk revisiting the fragments of evidence collected over these turbulent weeks, I began to feel an overwhelming sense of convergence. The disparate clues, the abandoned sites, and the spectral voices of the city had coalesced into a single, resonant theme, a lament for the lives left behind, a mourning for dreams unfulfilled. In that quiet solitude, I understood that the mystery was not solely about a solitary criminal's deeds. It was about the shared human experience, a complex interplay of memory, grief, and the persistent, if fragile, hope for redemption. The darkness was no longer something to be feared, but a profound canvas upon which the true essence of life was painted. It was in the interplay of shadow and light that I began to perceive the subtle beauty of existence, a beauty that was often hidden behind the facade of everyday routine. Every whispered secret, every sorrowful echo, was a testament to the resilience of the human spirit and the unspoken bonds that tether us to one another. As the night deepened, I resolved to follow these whispers wherever they might lead, trusting that each step into the dark would ultimately illuminate a deeper truth. I felt compelled to chronicle not only the facts of Samuel's confessions but also the intangible echoes of humanity that permeated every corner of the city. With renewed determination, I gathered my notes, my photographs, and a quiet resolve that transcended the ordinary. The path ahead was shrouded in uncertainty, yet it beckoned with an irresistible promise of revelation, a promise that the darkness itself held the keys to understanding the hidden narratives of our lives. In the profound silence of that night, under a sky heavy with unspoken memories, I embraced the whispers in the dark. They were not just echoes of a past long gone, but the living, breathing expressions of a collective heart, a heart that beat in quiet unison with the sorrow and hope that defined our very existence. And with that understanding, I stepped back into the night, ready to traverse the labyrinth of shadow and light, knowing that every whispered secret would bring me closer to the truth. Fragments of memory. Some nights, the boundary between memory and reality seems to dissolve, leaving me stranded in a realm where every fragment of the past bleeds into the present. It is in these quiet, suspended moments that I confront the scattered shards of my own history, the echoes of laughter long faded, the ghostly remnants of regrets too painful to name. As I sift through the detritus of time, I begin to understand that every fleeting image is a part of a larger mosaic, each piece vital to the story of who I once was, and who I have become. It began with a simple, unremarkable discovery. I was sorting through a box of old case files in the dim back room of my office when I uncovered a yellowed envelope addressed in a familiar, yet long forgotten hand. The envelope was sealed with wax, the imprint of an unknown crest barely visible beneath layers of time. My pulse quickened as I carefully opened it, revealing a single photograph, a candid snapshot of a crowded street, blurred faces caught in a moment of exuberance and despair. That image, though worn and fragile, struck a chord deep within me, as if it were a relic from a life I had once lived in parallel, a life filled with innocence now lost to the relentless march of time. The photograph evoked a cascade of memories: sunlit afternoons spent wandering through busy markets, the murmur of conversations mingling with the scent of fresh bread and the distant strains of a street performer's melody. In contrast, I recalled the stark solitude of my current existence: long nights spent in the company of case files, the ceaseless hum of the city, a constant reminder of lives moving on without me. That image, simple yet profound, became the catalyst for a journey inward, forcing me to confront the fragments of memory that had long lain dormant beneath layers of duty and detachment. I began to collect these fragments: old letters, faded photographs, scribbled notes, each one a piece of the puzzle of my past. They were scattered throughout my workspace, a silent testament to the passage of time and the accumulation of forgotten moments. With every new artifact I unearthed, a long-buried memory stirred, flickering to life like a candle flame in a vast, dark chamber. I found myself poring over each detail: the curve of a smile in a photograph, the delicate script of a handwritten note, trying to piece together the narratives that had once defined me. There was a strange beauty in this pursuit, a poignant reminder that even the most fragmented recollections carry the essence of who we are. Late one autumn evening, I decided to visit the small park where I had once found solace as a child. The park, now overgrown with wild grass and dotted with the remnants of once pristine benches, held a timeless quality. The rustle of dry leaves underfoot, the soft murmur of the wind whispering through barren trees, all of it served as a gentle reminder of a world that continued to turn, indifferent to the passage of years. I sat on a weathered bench beneath an ancient oak, letting the cool breeze carry away the weight of accumulated memories. In the interplay of light and shadow, I began to see my past as a series of interconnected moments, a symphony of joys and sorrows that had shaped the contours of my soul. As I sat there, the crisp air seemed to stir something deep within me. I recalled a time when I had been full of hope, a time when the future was a vast, unexplored horizon and every moment was a promise of adventure. I remembered the laughter shared with friends, the simple pleasure of a sunset, and the comfort of knowing that, no matter how dark the night, dawn would always come. Yet, alongside these cherished recollections lay the pain of loss, the quiet grief of opportunities missed and moments slipped away. The park, with its fading vibrancy, mirrored the delicate balance between memory and oblivion, a living archive of the ephemeral nature of life. Returning to my office that night, I found that the fragments of my past had woven themselves into the fabric of my investigation. The case of Samuel, with its myriad of whispered confessions and shadowed secrets, now felt intertwined with my own personal narrative. I began to see that the journey into the dark recesses of human cruelty was not solely about unraveling the mysteries of a troubled soul, but also about understanding the silent echoes of my own existence. Each detail I documented, every clue I unearthed, resonated with the gentle cadence of personal recollection, a quiet reminder that our lives are but collections of fragmented memories, stitched together by the passage of time. I spent long hours in quiet contemplation, the soft scratch of my pen on paper accompanied by the steady rhythm of rain against the window. In those moments, the lines between the case file and my diary blurred. I scribbled down memories, both personal and investigative, a stream of consciousness record that captured the essence of each encounter, each revelation. There was a delicate poetry in the way the past reasserted itself, a familiar scent on a rainy day, a half-remembered melody playing faintly in the background, a sudden flash of light that evoked the image of a forgotten smile. These were the fragments of memory that defined not only who I was, but also the nature of the darkness I sought to understand. One particularly poignant evening, as dusk melted into night, I found myself drawn to an old, abandoned building on the edge of the city, a relic from a bygone era that had witnessed countless untold stories. Its crumbling facade and shattered windows spoke of decay and resilience, of beauty emerging from ruin. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of damp concrete and faded memories. I wandered slowly through the empty corridors, each step echoing like a soft reminder of the passage of time. In a forgotten room, I discovered a weathered piano, its keys yellowed and chipped yet still exuding a sense of quiet majesty. I pressed a key tentatively, and the sound, a soft, melancholic note, seemed to capture the very essence of the lost years. In that fleeting moment, the piano became a conduit between the past and the present, a symbol of the fragile continuity of life despite the relentless erosion of time. The building itself felt alive with the ghosts of its former inhabitants, whispers of laughter, echoes of sorrow, and the muted heartbeat of a forgotten era. I lingered there, letting the silence wash over me, each detail etching itself into my memory like an indelible mark. The interplay of decay and beauty, of ruin and resilience, was a testament to the enduring power of memory, a reminder that even in the most desolate places, traces of life persist, waiting to be rediscovered. In the solitude of that abandoned building, I began to piece together the narrative of my own past, fragments of memory that had long been buried beneath the weight of responsibility and time. I recalled moments of unbridled joy and quiet melancholy, of times when the world seemed both infinite and achingly small. I recognized that the journey to understand Samuel's confessions was, in many ways, a journey to reclaim the parts of myself I had lost along the way. The line between the case and my personal history had blurred, revealing a shared tapestry of human experience, one woven from threads of love, loss, hope, and regret. Back in the safe haven of my office, as I carefully organized the relics of my journey, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. The fragments of memory that I had gathered were not mere remnants of a bygone past, they were the keys to unlocking the deeper truths that lay at the heart of my investigation. I began to understand that every detail, every whispered recollection, was a vital part of a grander narrative. It was a story that transcended the boundaries of crime and punishment, a narrative that spoke to the eternal interplay between light and shadow within every human soul. I closed my journal that night with a profound sense of resolution, aware that the fragments of memory I had gathered were both a mirror and a map, a reflection of the inner workings of my own heart and a guide to the mysteries yet to be unveiled. The journey ahead was fraught with uncertainty, but it was also illuminated by the soft glow of remembrance and the promise of redemption. Each fragment was a stepping stone on the path toward understanding the complexities of our shared humanity, a reminder that even in the darkest corners, the light of memory can guide us home. As I prepared to face another day, I knew that the investigation was evolving into something far greater than a simple case. It was becoming an exploration of the human condition itself, a delicate balance of pain and beauty, of ephemeral moments and enduring truths. The fragments of memory, both mine and those woven into the tapestry of Samuel's story, beckoned me to look deeper, to listen more intently, and to embrace the inherent contradictions that make us who we are. In that gentle interplay of recollection and revelation, I found solace, a quiet assurance that every broken piece of our past, when gathered with care, can form a portrait of resilience and hope. And so, with the soft murmur of memories echoing in my mind, I resolved to continue this journey, knowing that the fragments of memory would ultimately lead me to a deeper understanding of both the case and the hidden contours of my own soul. Echoes of guilt. In the quiet aftermath of my relentless search through memories and abandoned places, a heavier burden began to settle within me, a pervasive echo of guilt that seemed to resonate from every shadowed corner of the city and, more disturbingly, from within my own heart. As I moved further along this darkened path, I found that the weight of every confession, every forgotten relic, and every whispered secret was drawing me closer to a confrontation with my own hidden failings. It started with small, almost imperceptible moments, the subtle twitch of my eye when a familiar face appeared in a fleeting reflection, the unexpected shiver that coursed down my spine in a quiet room. I began to realize that the investigation into Samuel's elusive narrative was no longer just an external quest to uncover a criminal's past. It had morphed into a journey of self-examination. The voices of those lost, once echoing solely in the corridors of memory, now reverberated through me, forcing me to reckon with the guilt and regret that had long been buried beneath layers of duty and determination. One damp evening, under the pale glow of a half-hidden moon, I found myself wandering the narrow, rain-slicked streets near the old district. The world was hushed, the relentless patter of raindrops on the pavement a rhythmic reminder of time slipping away. In the stillness of that moment, every sound, every shadow, felt laden with unspoken confessions. I paused before a grimy storefront, its window displaying nothing more than a reflection of my own tired eyes. In that mirror of broken light, I saw more than just my reflection. I saw the faint outline of past missteps, the specter of choices made in moments of weakness. It was as if the street itself had absorbed the sorrow of those who had walked it before me, each step a silent admission of unspoken guilt. At times, I questioned whether my relentless pursuit of truth was an act of penance, an effort to absolve myself of regrets that I had long refused to acknowledge. Samuel's words, soft, measured, and haunting, echoed in my memory, serving as both a challenge and a mirror. His calm acceptance of the darkness within him forced me to confront the parts of myself that I had always kept hidden, the moments of hesitation, the subtle compromises made in the name of duty, and the instances where silence had prevailed over action. In my solitude, those memories surged forth, unbidden and unrelenting, blending with the evidence I had so meticulously gathered to form a dissonant symphony of remorse. I began to revisit places that I once thought were mere backdrops to my investigation, but now revealed themselves as repositories of personal anguish. One such place was an old bridge spanning a slow-moving river, its structure a fragile link between the past and the present. Standing there, the sound of water flowing beneath me seemed to wash away the superficial layers of time, revealing the raw, unfiltered emotions that I had tried so hard to hide. I remembered a time when I had crossed that very bridge with a heart unburdened by secrets, when the world felt as if it were filled with endless possibilities. Now, the bridge served as a poignant reminder of the inevitable toll that time exacts on our dreams and our souls, a toll measured in moments of regret and unspoken sorrow. Inside the cramped confines of my office, the case files had become more than just records of a criminal's misdeeds. They had transformed into an intricate diary of my own internal struggles. Late at night, when the city had succumbed to a heavy silence, I would sit at my desk and pore over the faded notes and photographs, each item a trigger that stirred up memories of missed chances and quiet failures. There were instances when the distinction between Samuel's confessions and my own private grief became indistinguishable, a mingling of voices that spoke of shared burdens, of a collective pain that transcended individual wrongdoing. In one particularly agonizing instance, I found myself rereading a confession that Samuel had delivered in that stark interrogation room. His words, laced with a cold sword of remorse, reverberated in the silence long after the conversation had ended. I could not help but wonder if, in some twisted way, his act of confession was an attempt to unburden himself of a guilt that he had carried for decades. And as I listened to the echoes of his words, I recognized that I, 2. Was haunted by a similar burden, a guilt that stemmed not from overt malice, but from a series of silent compromises and the quiet surrender of hope. The nights grew longer, and with each passing moment, the echoes of guilt became more insistent. I began to see the faces of the victims not as distant figures, but as ghostly silhouettes that emerged in the quiet moments of solitude, faces that silently pleaded for acknowledgement and reparation. Their unvoiced sorrows and the weight of their untimely ends merged with my own inner turmoil, creating a tapestry of collective grief that was both beautiful and unbearably tragic. During one of those long, sleepless nights, I took a walk along the banks of a forgotten canal. The water, dark and impenetrable, mirrored the turbulent thoughts that churned within me. I sat on a crumbling stone bench and let the cool night air envelop me, feeling each gust of wind as if it were a soft caress on a wounded soul. In that quiet moment, I realized that the true horror was not in the acts committed or the confessions made, but in the lingering guilt that permeated every silent heartbeat. It was in the regret of paths not taken, the remorse of words left unsaid, and the haunting knowledge that no matter how far I delved into the case, I could never fully escape the ghosts of my own making. As dawn slowly crept over the horizon, painting the sky with muted shades of blue and gray, I returned to my office with a heavy heart. The emerging light did little to dispel the shadows that clung stubbornly to my thoughts. Instead, it cast long, somber silhouettes on the walls, a constant, silent reminder of the night's revelations and the enduring presence of guilt. I sat at my desk and began to write, each word a cathartic release, an attempt to reconcile the echoes of the past with the reality of my present. I poured out my confessions onto the paper, a raw and unfiltered outpouring of sorrow and regret, knowing that in doing so, I was both exorcising my demons and acknowledging the depth of my own frailty. In that intimate dialogue between pen and paper, I recognized that guilt was not a singular emotion, but a complex tapestry woven from the threads of every small decision, every moment of hesitation, and every quiet surrender to despair. It was both a burden and a teacher, a reminder that even in the darkest recesses of our souls, there lies the potential for transformation and, perhaps, redemption. I understood then that my journey was far from over. The echoes of guilt that had begun to resound within me were not meant to break my spirit, but to guide me toward a deeper understanding of who I truly was. In confronting my own shortcomings, I could better comprehend the intricate web of sorrow and regret that defines Samuel's narrative, and in doing so, begin to forge a path toward healing. With a renewed resolve tempered by the somber lessons of the night, I vowed to continue my pursuit of truth, not just to unravel the mysteries of a troubled mind, but to embrace the full spectrum of my own humanity. The journey ahead was shrouded in uncertainty and sorrow, yet it was also illuminated by the quiet promise of redemption, a promise that echoed in every heartbeat, every whispered secret, and every tear shed in the silence of the night. As the new day fully unfurled its light, I stood by the window of my office, watching as the city slowly stirred to life. The lingering shadows on the walls bore silent witness to the night's confessions, each one a reminder of the heavy cost of truth and the unyielding passage of time. I knew that I must carry these echoes of guilt with me, not as chains that bind me to my past, but as beacons that guide me toward a future where understanding and forgiveness might one day prevail. The final confession. As I sat alone in the stillness of the early morning, the dim light of a hesitant dawn filtered through heavy, rain-streaked windows. Every droplet clinging to the glass seemed to whisper untold stories of regret and redemption, a fragile promise that even the most relentless darkness might one day yield to the light. Tonight, I knew, was the moment when everything would come to a head, when the accumulated weight of years of silent despair and hidden truths would demand a final, unburdening confession. The room around me was saturated with memories. Faded photographs leaned against the battered edges of a wooden desk, each one capturing a fragment of a life that had long since slipped away. Case files, their pages yellowed and edges frayed, were stacked meticulously like the chapters of a chronicle too painful yet too essential to ignore. I ran my fingers over their surfaces, feeling the coarse texture of history, a tactile reminder of the human lives intertwined with the case of Samuel. Here, in this intimate sanctuary of solitude, the boundaries between my own sorrow and the spectral confessions of a troubled soul blurred into one continuous stream. I opened my journal, its cover scuffed by years of use, and stared at the blank pages as if they were a vast expanse awaiting the imprint of truth. My pen, once a silent observer of unspoken pain, now trembled in anticipation of the words that needed to be set free. I began with a hesitant stroke, each letter an act of both confession and catharsis, a desperate attempt to distill years of internal conflict into a single, coherent narrative. I recalled that final encounter with Samuel, a moment suspended in time when his cold, measured voice had seeped into the crevices of my soul. I remembered the stark lighting of the interrogation room, the way his eyes, heavy with decades of remorse, had met mine in a silent challenge. In his measured cadence, I had heard not only the confession of a lifetime of transgressions but also the soft, persistent murmur of his own lost humanity. His admission was not just an account of crimes committed, it was an elegy to a life steeped in regret, a requiem for dreams that had been swallowed by the abyss of solitude. As I wrote, the pen's scratch on the paper became a metronome to my racing thoughts. I poured out memories of the long, rain-drenched nights spent wandering desolate streets, where every puddle on the pavement mirrored fragments of my own broken hopes. I recalled standing on that rickety old bridge, where the ceaseless flow of the river below spoke of time's inexorable march and of opportunities irrevocably lost. The sound of water cascading over ancient stones had once lulled me into a state of resigned acceptance. Now it was a haunting reminder of every moment I had failed to act, every whispered secret I had left unspoken. In that solemn act of writing, I confessed the sins of omission, those quiet compromises made in the name of duty, the fleeting moments of indifference that allowed the darkness to grow unchecked. I admitted that in my fervent pursuit of Samuel's elusive truth, I had, at times, lost sight of the very humanity I vowed to protect. The words flowed from my pen as if in a trance, mingling the cold facts of the case with the searing warmth of personal regret. I detailed every hesitated step, every pause laden with the quiet anguish of a man haunted by his own inaction. Outside, the first rays of dawn broke through the gloom with a hesitant brilliance. The rain had finally subsided, leaving behind a city washed in a transient glow of fragile promise of renewal amid lingering sorrow. I stepped away from my desk and moved to the window, where the soft light revealed a landscape both desolate and hopeful. In that moment, I felt as if the city itself was exhaling after a long, oppressive night. The silhouettes of old buildings, etched in the gentle glow of early sunlight, spoke silently of resilience and of the unyielding passage of time. I closed my journal for a moment, allowing the ambient silence to swallow my racing thoughts. In that pause, I could almost sense the presence of those I had failed to save, the victims whose lives had been reduced to mere entries in a case file, whose names echoed in the corridors of memory. Their silent voices merged with my own confession, forming a collective lament that transcended individual guilt. I recognized that this final confession was not solely about unburdening myself, it was an offering, a tribute to every lost soul whose fate had been sealed by the indifferent hands of time. Returning to my desk, I resumed writing, this time with a steady, resolute hand. I chronicled the long journey of my investigation, the long nights, the silent confrontations with my own frailties, and the quiet moments of revelation when the true nature of darkness was laid bare. I wrote of abandoned corridors, dilapidated buildings that stood as monuments to forgotten dreams, and of the fleeting moments when, Amidst all the sorrow, a spark of hope managed to break through the pall. In those lines, I vowed to seek redemption not as a fleeting aspiration but as an enduring purpose, a commitment to honor the truths unearthed by the case of Samuel, and to transform the echoes of guilt into a beacon of understanding. Every sentence was a bridge between past and present, a fragile link that tethered me to the living memories of those who had once dared to dream of a better world. I described in painstaking detail the interplay of light and shadow that had come to define my existence, the way a solitary street lamp could cast both a luminous glow and a deep, haunting darkness, the delicate dance of rain and reflection on a cold, wet pavement, the subtle interplay of hope and despair that was etched into every crevice of the urban landscape. As the final words of my confession took shape on the paper, I felt a profound sense of relief intermingled with sorrow. The act of writing had stripped away layers of accumulated guilt, leaving behind the raw, unadorned truth of my soul. I signed the page with a single, deliberate stroke, a silent promise that I would carry this truth forward, not as a burden but as a guiding light in the uncertain days to come. In the gentle, forgiving light of dawn, I carefully folded the confession and placed it among the case files, a quiet testament to a journey that had forever altered my perception of justice and humanity. The final confession was not the end of my story, rather, it was a turning point, a solemn pledge to embrace the entirety of life, with all its pain and beauty, its darkness and its light. Stepping away from my desk, I felt the soft embrace of the morning air and the tender warmth of a new beginning. The echoes of guilt and regret, though never entirely vanquished, had been transmuted into something more profound, a resilient hope that even in the aftermath of the darkest nights, the promise of renewal and redemption would always shine through. And so, with a heart both heavy and resolute, I embarked on the next chapter of my life, a journey defined not by the absence of shadows, but by the unwavering belief that every act of confession, every whispered truth, carries within it the seed of transformation. The final confession had been laid bare, and with it, I found the strength to step forward into the light of a new day, ready to honor the past and embrace the future with open arms. As the final notes of our journey echo in the quiet corners of my mind, I invite you to pause with me for a moment of reflection amidst the lingering shadows and the fragile light of a new dawn. Tonight, we have traveled together deep into the labyrinth of memory, guilt, and redemption, following the intricate threads of a case that was as much about the human soul as it was about the crimes committed. Here, at the threshold of a new day, I wish to share some final thoughts and extend my heartfelt gratitude to you, my dear viewers, for venturing inside this hidden realm with me. Over the course of this exploration, we have peered into the darkness not merely to uncover the raw details of a troubled past but to discover the subtle interplay between despair and hope. We witnessed how every whispered confession, every faded photograph, and every silent testimony forms part of a much larger narrative, a narrative that reflects the enduring complexity of the human condition. In the reflective glow of these shared moments, I hope you, too, have found a resonance with the stories that haunt these forgotten alleys, that echo in the hollow corridors of abandoned buildings, and that lie nestled within the hearts of those whose voices are too often silenced. Standing here now, in the soft embrace of early morning light, I feel a quiet sense of closure, a gentle, bittersweet farewell to a chapter that has changed me irrevocably. This journey was not just about unraveling the mystery of Samuel or the somber confessions that emerged from the depths of guilt. It was a journey into the very essence of what it means to be human. It reminded us that even in the darkest of nights, there is a spark of fragile, persistent hope that binds us together in our shared vulnerability and resilience. I want to take a moment to thank each of you for joining me on this profound expedition. Your willingness to explore the hidden facets of the criminal world, to confront the uncomfortable truths about our collective past, and to embrace the duality of light and shadow is what makes this journey worthwhile. It is your open hearts and inquisitive minds that give meaning to these stories, transforming cold facts and haunting images into a tapestry of emotions that we all share. As we prepare to close this chapter, I am reminded of the timeless wisdom that every ending is also a new beginning. In every confession, in every tear that has been shed for lost dreams and unspoken regrets, there is a promise of renewal, a silent vow that even amidst the most profound sorrow, redemption is possible. It is this promise that I carry with me, a beacon of hope that lights the path ahead, no matter how uncertain or fraught with shadows it may be. Before we part ways for now, let me share a few final reflections. In our pursuit of truth within the criminal world, we discovered that the real story is not simply one of crime and punishment, but of the complex tapestry of human existence. Each person we encounter, each memory we unearth, is a part of a larger narrative, one that speaks of our shared joys, our collective grief, and our enduring capacity to overcome even the harshest realities of life. The journey we have undertaken together is a reminder that behind every headline, behind every statistic, there lies a profound human story, one of struggle, of resilience, and ultimately, of hope. To my dear viewers, thank you for being here to lend your ears, your hearts, and your minds to these stories that sometimes cut too close to the bone. Your support and engagement are what inspire me to continue exploring the intricate depths of the criminal world, not just as a witness to its darkness but as a seeker of the light that always lingers beyond the horizon. I hope that in sharing this journey, you have found not only a better understanding of the complexities of crime and punishment but also a reflection of the resilience and transformative power of the human spirit. As we now draw the curtain on this video, I invite you to carry these reflections with you. Let the interplay of shadow and light serve as a reminder that every ending is interwoven with the promise of a new beginning, that every confession, no matter how painful, holds the potential for healing, and that in the silence of our shared sorrows, we can discover the courage to face another day. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for stepping inside the criminal world with me tonight. Your presence has made this journey richer, and your willingness to delve into these hidden truths reaffirms that even in the darkest places, human connection and empathy can light the way. I look forward to meeting you again in future explorations, where together, we will continue to unravel the mysteries that lie beneath the surface of our everyday lives. Until then, take care of yourselves and those around you. May the lessons we have learned tonight guide you in finding your own strength in the face of adversity, and may you always hold on to the hope that, no matter how long the night, the dawn is always just a heartbeat away. Goodbye for now, and thank you until we meet again. Stay curious, stay brave, and keep seeking the light amidst the shadows. With deepest gratitude and warmest regards. Inside the Criminal World.